What's up, everyone? Sean Count Blaggerth here today, adding to a thread that was started apparently on Facebook. I'm not familiar with the person who started it. I know his name is Mitch. Brainsmasher here on YouTube, GroundZeroSalem, and Marty Worm. They all put out responses to this thread. And even though I'm 26 years old, I haven't been into black metal since the fucking beginning of it. Started before I was born. I was born in 91. So I had no chance to get into it, obviously, back then. So I get it. I'm a young dude. This list may not make sense to some people, but I tried to keep this to the classics, and that's what this video is about. Our 13 Stone Cold classics in black metal. And I have 2 CDs, and the rest are on LP. And I'm going to start off with a Norwegian classic. There's going to be some Norwegian albums, some that aren't, but we're going to start with this. Fuck, man. This was one of the first full-on black metal records I ever heard that wasn't, like, Dimmu Borgir or anything like that. When I heard this, like, pretty much solidified my love for the genre. I was probably, like, 16 at the time when I heard this. Satyricon with Dark Medieval Times, first press CD. This fucking album is so good. It's one of those records where when you put it on, the atmosphere of it is just absolutely overwhelming. It is literally one of the coldest records ever made within black metal. And a lot of it is due to, like, maybe the samples of, like, the wind and shit like that on the acoustic track. I know it's track 4. I can't remember the name of it. Well, I can't pronounce it. My tribute to the Winterland. Maybe it has something to do with that, but that sharp, piercing fucking guitar that they kind of started with the split that they did with, I believe it was Emperor. I can't remember the name of that split for some reason, and it's escaping me. But with songs like Night of the Triumphator and shit like that, you really got a glimpse into what the future of Satyricon was going to be at the time, which was this very blistering, cold sound. Little bit of keyboards here and there, some flute on this album. It just all came together to create this super dense atmosphere, and the absolute mystery behind the record is something that makes it truly special. The fact that you don't know exactly what the lyrics are, and you have to kind of pick it out through these very faint, distant screams. It's just absolutely chilling, and just this title track, Dark Medieval Times, Walk the Path of Sorrow. Classics. I could talk about this album for days. So that is one. And the next one is Lunar Poetry by Nokturnal Mortum. This is the A5 Digipack version released in 2010, if I remember correctly. Put out by No Colors. Nocturnal Mortum, Ukrainian black metal band, black metal legends, got well known within NSBM. Now they've abandoned the ideology, blah, blah, blah. Who gives a shit? This is their second demo. First one was Twilight Fall, which was incredible, but it was very scattered. There was no real focus on genre. Whereas with Lunar Poetry, unbelievably powerful black metal. Very melodic, lots of keyboards. In fact, I believe on this record there's 2 keyboardists were used on this, which gives it this very symphonic sound, but it's not obnoxious. It still has this blistering cold, raw black metal vibe to it, but the production isn't buzzsaw, it's not fuzzy, it's not shitty sounding. It sounds fantastic. And to me, what makes this such a classic is every single song on here has at least one melody that you will remember, and it will be stuck in your head for days. This is one of my absolute favorites, and the cover of Celtic Frost, Sorrows of the Moon, which is a very odd choice of a Celtic Frost cover for a black metal band, works extremely well. This is just absolutely beautiful. If you haven't listened to this, there's a major problem. Lunar Poetry by Nokturnal Mortum. Everyone in this thread so far has included at least one first wave album. I decided to do the same thing, and I went with Morbid Tales by Celtic Frost. This album may not be traditional black metal in the sense of tremolo pick guitars, blast beats, screamed vocals, shit like that. But this is just some absolutely crushing evil. You could call it thrash, you could call it so many different things. To me, the black metal in this comes with not just the attitude, but the songwriting being so stripped down. While it's not stripped as, let's say, Hellhammer, especially like Satanic Rites and especially Triumph of Death, musicianship increased. They still had almost a philosophy, at least on this release, because it's pre to Megatherion, that less is more. And they just utilized the bare bones basics to create this just absolutely mammoth evil record that it doesn't matter if you're into black metal or not. If this doesn't send shivers up your spine at least once, especially with a song like Procreation of the Wicked, there's a major problem. Or the intro Human. Absolutely phenomenal shit. And I mean, this is where a lot of the look of black metal comes from, along with Venom, shit like that. Bathory was more in line with what we would call black metal nowadays, but with this, I would definitely call it a black metal record. It had the impact, it had the influence, it had a lot of the musical elements, especially with the, as I said, the songwriting, the song structures. But fantastic album, definite classic. Next album, this is probably one of the most classic albums in all black metal. This is essentially ground zero for Norwegian black metal because this was recorded in 1990, and I believe this was released in 93. So technically speaking, A Blaze in a Northern Sky came before this, but the actual recording of this predates A Blaze in a Northern Sky. So to me, this is the beginning of black metal as we know it. Mayhem live in Leipzig. This, I almost picked De Mysteriis Dom Sathanas, but I saw Marty pick that in his video, and of course that's a classic, it goes without saying, and this definitely is as well. But I feel like it's overlooked because it's a live album. The thing you have to keep in mind when you listen to this, and the reason why I say this is essentially ground zero for Norwegian black metal, was in 1990, if I remember correctly, the only Soulside Journey from Darkthrone was released, and there was only the Burzum demos. So with this essentially is what black metal is all about and everything that it became. In fact, I know Darkthrone stated they were influenced by the direction that Mayhem were going on this during this era with Dead on vocals. And this has all the elements of a fantastic black metal record, especially the really raw production and just Dead's energy. Dead is like one of the most demented human beings out there, but I love his delivery and his passion and just the way he didn't give a shit about himself or others. And just the beginning of the Freezing Moon with a when it's cold and when it's dark. It's one of those moments where, in my opinion, if you don't know that intro and you say you love black metal, you should not say you love black metal. Because this is something that is a must listen and a must own for anybody into the style. This is the recent Peaceville reissue of Live in Leipzig. Really cool pressing. Printed inner sleeve, black vinyl. And you get a very nice booklet to go along with it, with notes from people that were involved in this time. Just the production, everything about this is an absolute classic. So if you haven't listened to Live in Leipzig, get on it. One of the best fucking black metal albums ever. Alright, up next, as I said, I tried to go with albums that were different from other people, but this was one that I could not have any... There was no room for me to bend on this. I had to talk about this album. Patrick showed it in his video. God damn it. Panzerfaust from Darkthrone. Probably, this in my opinion is the best Darkthrone record. Period. This is basically Darkthrone worshipping at the altar of Celtic Frost and Hellhammer. 100%. Well, there are songs like Hans die Winter, Invig of Sorg. I know I'm completely ruining the names of these songs that are just total Transylvanian Hunger style. I feel like the essence of Celtic Frost was captured on like Triumphant Gleam and Hordes and Nebula and Quintessence, one of my absolute favorite black metal songs ever. Just some of the most pained sounding vocals. Like, it literally sounds like Nocturnal Culto was ripping his throat out while he was screaming this, especially the end of Quintessence with the and steadily I walked back home and only got wet on my feet, and the scream and shout that he does at that point on sounds absolutely barbaric and painful. And that's the theme throughout this record, in the vocal department especially. I love the drumming on it. I love the riffs. They're so simplistic. They're basic. They're total Celtic Frost worship. But they did it in such a way where they made it their own and turned it into something that, in my opinion, is just absolutely pure magic. If for some reason you skipped over this because it's not part of the Unholy Trinity, which I always hated that fucking term about the first 3 black metal records, check this out because this is so damn good. This is a Peaceville reissue from, I believe, 2010. It's a limited to 2000 sticker, and with a printed inner sleeve and liner notes. And in fact, he talks about how he did the... Fenris talks about how Ted's voice would go through the entire apartment, and it just sounded so savage, which I can believe. I have a feeling that his voice probably shook the fucking floor when he did that. It's so crazy on how barbaric it sounds, but I could go on about this record for days. Check it out if you haven't for some reason, but I feel like all of you have. Next one, Behemoth in the Forest, Dream Eternally. This is the debut EP from Behemoth, and as I said in my last video that I did, not the review, but Jams I've been jamming, where I talked about Seventh. And the Forest Dream Eternally is where it's at with Behemoth. This is just absolutely magical black metal. There is this sense of just pure mysticism coming from it. Listening to it feels like you're walking through like these like haunted woods in like mid-October on like a cold, rainy night. And it's just absolutely powerful. I mean, Moonspell writes Transylvanian Forest, Hidden in the Fog, with the Spell of Inferno, Pure Evil and Hate, which is a Bathory tribute song. It's so good. Not much really to say about this. It has a lot of Graveland sort of atmospheric elements that are definitely there, and you can definitely tell it's Polish, early Polish black metal. There's something about the early Polish scene that's so good, especially like Full Moon and shit like that. But this is the Metal Mind Historica box set version. Printed inner sleeve with the Bewitching of Pomerania, which is one of the funniest and one of the worst album covers I've ever seen in my life. Good tracks, but... and there's second side. But if you haven't listened to this for some reason, and once again, as I said, if you're one of those guys, it's like, The Satanist is the greatest album that's ever existed, and you haven't heard this, you're dumb. But everyone's got an opinion. Mine is, this is one of the best releases in black metal history. Total classic if you haven't heard it. Alright, next album. This is a demo. This demo is just so good. It's unbelievable. Going back to Poland with Graveland, the Celtic Winter. Early Graveland. I love all Graveland, but the early shit has this just absolutely hypnotic yet atmospheric and almost battle-like quality to it. And the Celtic Winter is no exception. Definitely, I would say the coldest material that he's done in terms of like production. It definitely has like more in line what you expect with black metal, but still extremely rhythmic, just like Carpathian Wolves, Immortal Pride. Drum-wise, this is way better than like Following the Voice of Blood. Not as vast as, let's say, Immortal Pride. and not as stripped down as in the Glare Burning Churches. This is just kind of like a middle ground for all of those sounds. And I just absolutely love this. This is the Forever Plagued pressing of it from a couple years back. Gatefold comes with a poster, and I believe, nope, no printed inner sleeve, just a poster. But one of my all-time favorites, man. When I first got into black metal, I listened to this probably... I would say this is probably like one of the top 10 things I checked out, like one of the first 10. And I remember listening to the intro into Call of the Black Forest, and when that first riff kicked in and Rob's just absolutely bizarre snarls came on, I was just like sitting there with chills running up my arm. And to me, black metal should give you the chills, and this demo completely does. He captures the atmosphere of just a total bleak winter so well on this. It's absolutely beautiful. The Night of Full Moon, probably my favorite song off this. If you haven't heard it, check it out. Fantastic shit. So another black metal classic, Celtic Winter by Graveland. So this next one is a French classic. This is my favorite release of the LLN, Les Legion Noirs, the Black Legions, fucking whatever you want to call them. This is a split. This is March to the Black Holocaust, Vlad Tepes and Belketre split. Holy shit, guys. This is one of the most overlooked releases in black metal, and it's so frustrating because Vlad Tepes, while being my personal favorite, I can see why people prefer Mutilation over them within the LLN. Mutilation was just more mature. They had better songwriting, better musicianship. Vlad, on the other hand, was just pounding out songs in the most barbaric way possible. They were so sloppy. But by the time this split came out, they got so much better. And I feel like Belketre is another band, which I'm probably mispronouncing, so if I am, I apologize. They are another one of the more overlooked bands. I feel like Mova gets more attention than them, which is kind of bizarre. But this split is so good. Just pure black metal in its most hateful, raw, pure form. This isn't meant for anything else other than being just pure hatred towards all of life and humanity. And you just get that absolute vigor coming through each song, just pure hate being screamed by these bands, and they're just pounding on their instruments like they just don't give a shit. And to me, that is one of the most black metal things ever. And I love this so much. It's a 2 LP set. First LP is Vlad. And then LP2 is Belketre. It's a very long split, but well worth the time. If you ever see this, pick it up. If you haven't heard this, give it a listen. It's, as I said, this is one of the best releases in black metal history that's just so painfully overlooked. It hurts, but check that out. All right, this next album, some people were talking about other genres within black metal that were impacted by some of these albums. This is one that someone can make a very solid argument that this is more of a death metal record, and I'm almost in that mindset. But due to the fact of the impact this album made upon black metal, specifically within war metal and shit like that, I had to talk about this. There was some talk of Behemoth, but this was one of the first albums I thought of. Blasphemy's Fallen Angel of Doom. A lot of people consider this to be the peak of war metal, black death, whatever you want to call it. This is the Alpha and Omega album, and I can definitely understand why people say that. The only gripe I have with this album is just the paper-thin guitar sound. I feel like for something like this, it should be more massive. The drums and the vocals, especially the effects on the vocals, where it has this like drenched in reverb sort of sound. The guitar riffs are kind of lost, but what you can hear is just so damn good. This is like what influenced bands like Conquer, fucking Black Witchery, shit like that to exist. I mean, if it wasn't for this album, I feel like we wouldn't have Black Death as we know it in war metal and shit like that. So a lot of people, this is what black metal is because it is just so unadulterated, just pure evil pressed on wax. And I can completely understand why people say that, because if I am to think of what black metal is really all about, especially thematically speaking, Blasphemy hit the nail on the head with this record. So if for some reason you haven't heard this and you're into revenge and shit like that, give this a listen. If it wasn't for this album, a lot of shit that we have today would not exist. This is like unbelievable, along with like Oath of the Black Blood by Behemoth and Inri from Sarcophago. This one's right up there. Canadian classic, fucking killer shit. Alright, this next one is a demo from a Finnish band. This is so good. I'm going to try my best to say this, and I'm sure I'm getting it wrong, so to all my Finnish viewers, I apologize. Hidden Torne? I know that's completely wrong, by Horna. This is I don't think it's their first demo, it's like one of their first demos, though. The legendary Finnish black metal act. This is with Nazgul on vocals, aka Satanic Tyrant Werewolf, the mastermind behind Satanic War Master, True Werewolf, Armor, etc. This is just a stripped down raw black metal classic, man. It's definitely has the influence of the Norwegian bands just completely on their sleeve, but this is kind of the beginning of the definitive Finnish black metal sound, where a lot of bands such as Sargeist, Behexen, Goat Moon, etc. started to pick up on the second wave sound and just kind of adding the Finnish sensibilities of melody and harmony to the music, and you definitely get a bit of that on here. This is just pure uncompromising black metal. Absolutely incredible. And I feel like this should be considered a classic in itself just because of the impact that Werewolf has had upon black metal. And I feel like this is overlooked because it's Horna and it's not a Satanic War Master release, but this is one of the first times the world got to hear Werewolf on the mic, and I'm just so glad that this demo exists because this is one of my absolute favorites to spin. So if you haven't listened to whatever that is by Horna, definitely check it out. This is a definite black metal classic. Alright, Brainsmasher included Caladan Brood on his list, and that's a relatively new band, so I figured one newish album when it hurt to be called a classic, and this is my favorite black metal album of all time, bar none, no contest, nothing will ever dethrone it. Les Heves de Nocte Epoque, I think is how you say it, by Forteresse. Forteresse Québécois black metal legends. This is the second album. Metal Noir Québécois is not just a movement, but it is also an album, the debut album from Forteresse. Well, it's good. There was nothing groundbreaking about it, and realistically, there's nothing really groundbreaking about this, but this is atmospheric black metal. This is ambient black metal. This is some of the coldest sounding shit you'll ever hear. I absolutely love how they basically harmonize every single guitar that's being used on this. There's always one playing a lower octave and another one playing a higher octave, and the tremolo ice piercing riffs just cut right through this kind of hazy mix on this album, and it's just absolutely beautiful. Keyboards create this very cold ambience to the record. It's just one of those albums that it's so good, it's beyond description for me. And it's one of those albums that's so powerful that I need to dedicate all my time when I listen to it. I can't be browsing the internet. I can't be doing something else. When I put this on, I need to turn off the lights, lay down, close my eyes, and just get completely lost in the majesty that is this album. Absolutely incredible. Oddly enough, this one is about as expensive as Metal Noir Québécois on vinyl, which is very disappointing because I really want Metal Noir Québécois. Printed inner sleeve also comes with a poster that I'm not going to pull out. But if you haven't listened to this, give it a listen. this is my favorite black metal album of all time. So to me, this is definitely a classic. All right, up next, this is an album that is so painfully overlooked. It hurts. German classic. I feel like the term epic gets thrown a lot with no real merit behind it. If the word epic was to ever describe one album in black metal, Blutenkrieg by Moonblood. This is one of my all-time favorite records in the genre and one of my all-time favorites, period. Mid-pace, churning black metal. Not very rhythmic, just very mid-pace, middle of the road, not breaking off into these crazy blast beat sections where the drummer's constantly falling off tempo because why would you stay on tempo when you play black metal? Anyways, everything is on point with this. It's very methodical, it's very rhythmic, it's very mid-pace, and the keyboards on this are just, it's one of the most, like, cold albums ever. It's like you are in this album cover. Where is it? That's your fist right there. You're just walking into the battlefield on this white blanket in the mountains of just deep snow, and it's about to be covered in the blood of your enemies. That is what this album feels like, and this album is just pure magic, guys. Moonblood, they've always done great. Winter Falls Over the Land, probably one of my all-time favorites. This is a bootleg that I got before they did the official reissues. Oddly enough, it's a double LP set, which makes no sense considering it was a single LP when it came out, but sounds good. That's all that matters to me. I do want to get the official reissue at some point, or if I ever have the cash, I would drop the coin on the original because this is that good. In a bloody night, a full moon, shadows, fucking under the cold full moon, I am all Blutenkrieg. The snow covered the lifeless bodies. Listen to this. And also, one of the funniest parts is the spine. Blutenkrieg. Because why would anybody that makes a bootleg spell it right? And last, and most certainly not least, the beginning of all atmospheric black metal. This would not be an essential black metal list without Burzum. I picked Hivis Lisset Tar Os. I apologize to my Norwegian viewers. This is the alpha and omega of atmospheric black metal. There is really not too many albums that are better than this, especially the opening track, Detsum Ingang Var. Every song on this album has its own place, but as an intro, Detsum Ingang Var, the way it brings you into the song with the keyboards, and then the guitar comes in, and then the building drums, and then into the main beat. It feels like you're running through the woods aimlessly at night, fearing for your life, and once when it kicks in, you are off into the mountains, and by the time you get to the top of the mountain, that repetitive, massive ending hits. And it is one of the most powerful moments in all of music, and honestly, if I had to pick one song to be my favorite black metal song of all time, it would be Detsum Ingang Var. I cannot praise that song enough. But the title track, fucking phenomenal. Just very straightforward, a lot of blast beats, beautiful, beautiful melodies behind it. The pained, wretched vocals that Varg had on this album, beautiful. The third track I cannot even begin to say the name of. Another blistering classic, and of course, the 20-minute outro, Tumhet, which is a pure ambient piece, and it works so fucking well. This album is a 10 out of 10. It's so damn good. This is, as I said, the beginning of atmospheric black metal as we know it, along with Bergtat from Ulver. In my opinion, those were like the two albums that solidified atmospheric black metal into the sound it has. And this album fucking rules. And that's it for this video. This is my list of Stone Cold classics in black metal. Your list may be different than mine. Whatever. That's cool. And That's it. If you want to support my channel, go ahead. My Patreon is down below. I still have shirts up for sale. If you want to get one, pre-order. They are coming out at the end of the month. But that's it. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video.